Frank's world. Oh, Frank's world. Yeah. Spin the data, let it swirl. Quantum leaps, AI streams. Frank's world. It's the dream. It's the dream.
Hello, LinkedIn, Twitch, X, YouTube, Facebook, and now officially Substack.
Hi, Substack.
Hello out there in Substack land. My name is Frank Lavinia, and with me is Candace Gahuli. I even have a title for you there.
Oh, it's very exciting.
Fancy, right?
Very fancy. Very
almost
fancy.
like a professional operation.
Right?
There's my, that's me. And how's it going, Candace?
It's going great. Honestly, I'm really excited. We've been, a couple milestones have happened. One of which is the, we just hit 100 subscribers on YouTube, which is really, really gratifying. And honestly, our views are through.
And that's on just the Impact Quantum channel, which
That's
now
just-
we're
right.
streaming on that too now, actually. So hello.
So that's fantastic. It just shows that what we're doing is resonating, but more importantly, like we have the hours and the views. And so if someone is not subscribed, oh well, they're still coming, and they're still coming in huge numbers. So that really makes me feel like we're able to talk to people at a point, you know, where we keep them excited and they want to learn with us. I love that.
I think it's awesome. You also have another podcast.
That is right. I have Women in Quantum, and that is on my Substack, CandaceGilhooly.substack.com.
Cool.
And I'm super excited about it because I've only put up 3 episodes so far, but plan on releasing another one next week. I have a couple in the kitty, but honestly, like the most fascinating thing that is happening is that with every woman that I speak to, like genuinely, the first question I ask them is, where are you from? I want to know because it begins to paint a picture of access to information and the culture. And like in 2 weeks, today I spoke to a woman from Tunisia. We're going to be recording in 2 weeks. I'm super excited.
Very nice.
I spoke to a lady in Russia, from Russia. I spoke to a lady from Egypt, and another lady from Iran.
Wow.
And it showed me how incredibly global quantum education is. Because everybody left their home country. Every single one of them left and went to not one, not even 2, but legitimately 3 different countries since their home country to continue their master's, into their PhD, into their postdoctoral work. And it's fascinating to find out why they chose what they chose and you know, what opportunities were presented to them. So I think everyone's really going to enjoy the future episodes of Women in Quantum.
Yeah, I mean, I've listened to them. I mean, I'm behind the camera, so to speak. So like I do get to listen to them all, and they've been really good. And I wonder if people have to go to different countries because maybe not every country or university system has a quantum computing footprint yet.
Absolutely.
Is that what it is? I mean, and I guess once you've lived in one country, like going to other ones is not that traumatic anymore, you know?
And also it's about the country itself. Like if I told you that 3 out of 5 ladies that I spoke to who went to 3 different countries, they all went to Japan. Every last one of them went to Japan. And they actually did their PhD work in Japan. And
really?
Yeah, and some were in Tokyo, and some were in Okinawa, and some another one was in Osaka. And everybody said the same thing. they loved living in Japan and would absolutely consider living there for the rest of their lives if given the choice. They just not only loved the academics, but it was the culture,
Interesting.
and they loved the culture, and they also felt very safe, and that was kind of an interesting point. As a woman, it is an issue that you wanna make sure you feel safe,
Right.
and if you're gonna be traveling, you know, all around the world, it really does matter where you choose to go.
Right. Right.
So that was really it's fascinating. Really, I'm just so excited to release these episodes. So
That's cool.
I'm
That's
excited. We're
cool.
gonna do it here,
Well,
and we're also gonna do it, from the website and
mhm.
Spotify. We're gonna do everything.
Yep. It's already on Spotify.
That's right.
Put that out there.
That's right. It's on Spotify.
So if you search for, I'm not gonna share the window yet, but if you see Women in Quantum podcast. Yeah, it's on Apple Podcasts, comes up, and Spotify doesn't come up in the search list, but that's interesting. Our YouTube comes up,
Okay.
so yay us.
Right.
So this is somebody announcing it, and that's basically the video where you spoke to Natasha.
Okay. Mhm.
No, wait, that is not her. That is a different video. She's someone you should have on the show. So,
Okay.
but yeah, you see, the first actual result is Apple Podcasts.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's great.
We have
I'm
no
really
rating. We have no ratings yet. So if you like it, please, that does help
excited.
support the show.
Rate it, like it honestly, it's been something that I've wanted to pursue legitimately since I was in university. Not the
Mhm.
idea of it being about quantum, but the idea about focusing on women in technology. Originally, that's what I wanted it to be. So whatever tech I was working on, I wanted to make this happen. And finally, the stars aligned, and I made it happen. And doing it in quantum, it's blowing my mind, talking to these young, incredible women, that are just brilliant, and just and the ideas that they come up with because something excited them that they learned a little bit about, and now they want to dig deep into it and maybe even come up with their own startup.
That's
So
cool.
that's cool, you know?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a massive, whether it'll be this year or next year, in the next within a reasonable amount of time. I think um, you're going to see a lot of startups get founded, right? And I suspect that you're going to see a fair bit of women start these too, right? Um, is it completely gender parity? No, but I think it's the best it's been certainly in my lifetime, and I doubt before before I was born it was any better, right? So I think it's I don't know, I think it's an exciting time to be in the space.
I do too, and there's a lot of room, and like the space is being created from the foundation up.
Right.
So getting involved now means, you get to be part of what is truly to come. And yeah, I mean, talking about like the gender parity, like it was really interesting. I was speaking to a lady today who, again, was from Tunisia, and she got her PhD in physics in Spain.
Interesting.
And she said that, you know, when you looked around, there was real gender parity all of a sudden. That it wasn't as bad as it used to be. And it also depends on what countries that this is happening. So, like for her, because the way their school system works, if you score a certain amount on the right test, then you're put immediately into math and sciences, and that is what you're pursuing. Even if
Interesting.
you wanted to do literature, or you wanted to do history, like you don't have a choice.
Interesting.
And but then when she looked around and she was at the school for all these really gifted people, she's like, what, half the class was females.
Interesting.
And that is like an entirely, completely different situation than the lady that I spoke to that's from Iran. And what she had to deal with in her culture, and then how it really, really was no parity. So I love it. I love it. And also, because I'm a dual citizen, I love knowing everything that's going on, in America in this regard. And
Right.
I live in Montreal, Quebec, and I'm also a Canadian citizen, so I want, like, to know everything that's going on here in Canada. Um, and so I'm always very interested when I speak to these women and they've traveled to the US and to Canada, and then find out kind of where did you end up and why. It's always very
Right.
exciting and interesting, right? I love it.
Well, that's cool. And also, I think it also, I think there are a lot of nation states and even local jurisdictions. We'll talk about what's going on in Maryland that are competing for quantum talent because they see that this is going to be the next wave, right? And it's still early enough where you can be a major player, right? So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I'll be curious to see, what happens if Japan attracts more women to the space. Then what will that bring about for Japan? I think only good things, really.
You know, everybody says that
Hmm.
the biggest issue is talent. Um,
Right.
and
And brain drain, the risk of brain drain.
Correct.
Right.
Absolutely, right? There was one lady that I spoke to that had an apartment in Chicago, but she couldn't stay because she needed to get another visa, but the visa she had to obtain had to be from outside of the States. And so then she's, like, stuck outside of the States when she has a job.
And an
Right.
apartment. And
It just got it can get very, very complicated,
right.
in that regard. And, but what was really, really interesting is the other day, we're gonna have him on Impact Quantum. I spoke to this gentleman, his name is Hillary, and he is from Nigeria. Now, what is exciting to me about that is that I've spoken to I have a handful of folks that are from Africa, from about 4 different major cities. And the education system is so incredible in these cities in Africa that they are creating incredible, incredible minds, incredible talent, but there's no industry there, right?
Right.
So there is talent that is happening, and there's a lot of talent that's happening in Africa, and to grab these people that are just brilliant because they want to come to where the industry is, and that means leaving where they are right now. The ones that I've met, they've left, and now they're in the UK, Germany, Canada, and the US is kind of what a lot of that kind of ended up in those 4 places, and are just the talent is incredible. The
Yeah,
talent,
no, I that's a good point. And we also spoke to another gentleman. I think it was also Nigeria. That it's our one of our lost episodes, where Jordan, right? We spoke to
ah,
Jordan,
right.
and he had a lot of connectivity troubles, and it was just really difficult to edit. So, like, Africa has some serious potential here, and I know that it's either a group or a meetup. One of our was it Clark Alexander? I think he spoke at Alexandria because they
Yes.
had some kind of a quantum hackathon or
Mhm,
startup
mhm,
pitch fest or something like that. So,
mhm.
I think there's definitely a lot of human potential in Africa. And then, I think again, it's the brain drain, right? Is going to be how do you reverse that? How do you, if not reverse it, pause it at least?
Right.
I don't think anyone has an answer to that just yet, but I do find it interesting that this is definitely a more globally distributed game
Mm.
than say AI is, right? Because
Yeah.
AI is pretty much a U.S., China, and oh yeah, Europe too, right? And there's been a lot of interesting consequences attached to that, right? Like one of an interesting video that was about Kazakhstan.
Mhm.
right? So Kazakhstan is in Central Asia, and they were trying to use generative AI to generate videos and characters, and they're not the people there don't look European and they don't look East Asian, right? So the Chinese models don't work, the Western models don't really work. So their government is actually actively kind of creating and training models themselves, with Kazakhstani kind of features and things like that. It's an interesting problem space, because if it's not just visual generative AI, there's also linguistic issues and things like that. There's a lot of, I think, opportunity here, um, for these things to be more widely distributed, right? You hear this term bantied about, digital sovereignty,
Right.
you know.
No, it's true. It just makes me think about the AI and the deep fakes and
Hmm.
like you know, I'm a doom scroller sometimes at 3 a.m. when I wake up
Right.
because I'm awake and I need to go back to sleep, but I can doom scroll for maybe 10, 15 minutes and I will go back to sleep. But you know,
Which is
so
a terrible habit, by the way. Do I
100%.
mean, I
Better to
noticed
read a book.
myself.
It's better to read a book, honestly. Make your eyes
Right.
go back and forth like REM. But that
Oh,
being
I
said,
hadn't thought of that. I just thought about the psychological impact of doom scrolling.
but the thing is, I'm doom scrolling. It's like animal rescues. It like all depends on what your
Oh,
algorithm
yeah,
is,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Mine
yeah.
is like animal rescues and things like that. But it was very political. My feed became very political a couple of weeks ago, and I saw something that I forwarded it to my husband so I could show him, and it was this Rachel Maddow report, and it looked real and it sounded real,
Oh,
and
so it was audio visual,
it
like
was audio and visual, and it was like a 10-minute long thing, and I then when I watched it again, I'm like, No, that doesn't feel right. Like that's wrong. Like that's not real because some of that information doesn't actually make sense. That's what's happening." And I
right,
fell for it, and I was really annoyed, which stopped my doom scrolling for a while, which is pretty good. But but it's true. Quantum is global, and AI seems to be fairly centrally located. And then when you talk about Europe, you're not even breaking out any of the countries in specific, but like in quantum, what's going on in France is just startup. It's crazy what's going on in France. There's so much innovation in France. There's so much innovation happening. The UK is making deals with Canada, with Germany. A lot of deals are going on to kind of create and innovate together, right?
right.
Uh,
There's
yeah.
definitely a lot of that, and France actually has, I think, to date, the highest valued European startup, in AI, Mixtral.
Oh, okay.
Um, so France is actually doing pretty well. Europe as a whole in the AI space could do better. Like, I don't want to throw shade at them, but they could do better. And I'm glad that they're taking the quantum thing. Um,
Yeah, but, like, you don't hear anything really big coming out of Canada for AI either, which is a little
well, it's interesting because Jeffrey Hinton is Canadian. A number of researchers are Canadian, but they moved to the US. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That is.
but Canada, specifically Quebec, is
Mhm.
doing a lot for quantum. Remember,
And AI, Joshua Bengio or
oh,
Joshua Bengio. Sorry, I
no, it's okay, it's all good, it's all good, it's all good information.
didn't
But
mean
yeah,
didn't mean to cut you off, but.
it's all good. Honestly, it's really fascinating what's happening specifically in Quebec,
Mhm.
with startups in quantum. I hooked up with a venture studio, which we're going to be doing a
Oh,
series,
yes, I'm real excited about that.
right? Like, more to come on that, but that's really phenomenal. We're going to do like a deep dive with hopefully about 12 different companies and seeing what they're doing and why it's exciting, and then understanding how, this whole venture studio, how they vet their people, how they help their people. I just think it's going to be really exciting.
That's
I'm
cool. That's
stoked,
cool.
totally stoked. But you mentioned I want you to talk about Maryland.
Yeah, so Maryland is doing a lot with quantum. The University College Park, which is near the IKEA.
Okay.
So, um, and it's Maryland is also home to the NSA, right? We're not that far from, the CIA headquarters and things like that. The U.S. government is obviously just across the. It's not really a state line, but across the border, with Washington D.C. So it makes sense for this area to develop that type of talent pool. There's just an enormous amount of opportunity. I think if anything we've learned from the last, say, 40, 50 years is, we have moved a lot of our technological innovation to Silicon Valley, to Seattle, right? But there's an entire country worth of people who are interested and can do this work, right? Um, one of the how do I phrase this? Annoyances I had when I worked for Microsoft was the assumption that everything had to happen in that time zone,
Okay.
right? And it wasn't really obvious, but it was definitely kind of there was a clear bias to, engineering happening there, right? And I understand there's reasons for that, but the whole idea is innovation can happen anywhere, right? This is not, you know, and you're seeing I think a lot more of that. I think the pandemic really changed the notion of place. um and you know I mean I live kind of close to Baltimore, kind of close to DC, but it's definitely, I live in a rural community that is slowly transitioning. There's actually a robotics center up in the county seat here. um so good on them for making that happen. My oldest is a captain of his robotics team, and I'll dad Max here. And um, they made it to regionals, which is I think the first time his school has done that. So
That's so exciting because that only means more for the program next year.
absolutely, and like I couldn't go because it was my birthday that weekend, and I had the concussion, so I was here with the younger kids and the pups.
And
So
pups.
this is why I don't doom scroll animal stuff, because I already have 6 dogs. So again,
At least all my stuff is about them saving animals. So
okay, well that's good.
I
That's
love
good.
that I don't know, it's all about saving them. And I'm like, one day I'll have some kind of rescue where I can save two. But not like that guy. I watch the one who lives in Oregon, Lee Asher. He like has hundreds of animals. It's insanity, but he devoted his life to it, and he's like
That
a
would be
star.
awesome.
He's like, yeah,
But
he has a 260 acre ranch in Oregon.
nice, nice, nice,
Crazy, but it's beautiful. I think that's like a beautiful, beautiful thing.
nice.
But I wanted to go back and talk about funding for a second, because what I noticed was happening in the past couple weeks is there's been a lot of money flying around quantum.
Yes, yes. There's been a lot of big deals flying around. Like not big kind of Sam Altman level deals, but big enough to make you wonder, like, what is going on here? Tell me about that.
Well, like for example, just this week, there's a Paris-based company called Quantum Nation, and they just closed their second round of funding at 220 million.
Wow.
Right? That's a really, really big deal. And again, France, which I think is
Right.
super exciting.
Right.
But it's also showing that there is capital. There's capital out there that's not leaving the quantum market.
Right.
And I think that, this kind of institutional approach um, is really getting the money makers excited. Also, not for nothing, but again, Europe is really, I mean, they're doubling down on being a sovereign quantum competitor,
Yeah.
and that's brilliant. Like super, that's very exciting. That's like one thing that happened.
No, I think that's a net positive for Europe, because I think over reliance on any one particular technology provider, whether they're American, whether they're Chinese, does start to erode your sovereignty as a nation, as a culture. And I think that people are finally waking up to that, right? When you ask, any of these LLM models, the majority of them are going to have a distinctly American, and even then, a distinctly West Coast of America point of view, because it's where they're from, right? And this wasn't intentional. I doubt very much that that was intentional bias. I doubt it. Possible, but unlikely. Um, but it's still going to be there, right? Bias is one of those things where try as you might to get rid of it, it's really pretty close to impossible to get rid of it. I think we should take on in the AI space an approach that was pioneered in cybersecurity, right? The zero trust approach, where just you assume it used to be that, in the olden days, you'd have a firewall, you would assume your network was safe, right? Now the philosophy is assume breach, assume that you've already been breached, and then act accordingly. And I think that we should, with AI, assume there's bias, right?
For sure.
Make the assumption that it's there because it's probably there, right? And there's the biases you can find and the ones that you haven't found yet, right? And I think that for lack of a better term, paranoia that exists in cybersecurity, and that it's very well justified, right?
Absolutely. Like,
Um,
we talk about it daily, like,
right.
are you paranoid enough? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
and no, there's something to that,
mhm.
and I'll give you an example. My wife, as you know, and many of our listeners know, although Substack people may not know, my wife works in IT security. And, when I first, I flew back from reInvent, and that's when last time I was at reInvent was when ChatGPT launched. And, I was just blown away by it. And I was explaining to her how LLMs work. And then she just basically turned. So all of that training data can be one giant attack surface. And I was like, well, no, she was right. And
Yeah, right. But it's her, because that's her
well,
perspective.
that's her perspective. And I, it took me a minute to be like, oh my God, she's right. You went from, oh, well, oh my God, she's actually right. And that sounds bad, but you know what I mean, right? And I would tell other data scientist people, other AI people that, like, don't you realize this is one big attack surface? They looked at me like I was wearing a
Wearing a
tinfoil
tinfoil
hat.
hat.
And,
Exactly.
yet a year or two later, OWASP, which is an organization of security professionals, they have a top 10 or top 11 security thing, was talking about that, like the second or third principle or commandment, or however you want to call it, is just that, like, that is the attack surface. So, today's paranoia is tomorrow's or next year's security best practice. So I think that we can learn a lot from cybersecurity and AI, and but just by implementing a zero trust, or zero, assume bias, right, instead of assume breach, because that's just the way it is. And now when you look at things that are going on there with um it's not called Claude anymore, it's called blanking on the name, um OpenClaw.
Oh, okay.
Have you heard about this? This is pretty crazy.
No.
OpenClaw is basically this agentic um, framework, and it's gotten a lot of attention. It basically gives even more agency to AI agents, which has enormous security implications, right? So I don't know if this is true because it just seems very clickbaity, but somebody, an AI bot had sent us a pull request or for a code base, and the code base maintainer refused it for one reason or the other, and the bot then went and started a smear campaign against the person who denied it, which was if it's true and not clickbait, then that's an interesting and disturbing development
Right.
in this space. But as we go from prompting, which is you chat with the AI, to the AI is going to go out and do things, right? And you can do this now. You can try this now with, whether it's ChatGPT or uh, Gemini or Claude. You say like, get me the latest news. I mean, it's basically an agent of sorts, right? It's going out and fetching the latest news from the internet.
Okay.
And if you ask it to do a task and you're in a certain type of account, it will actually go and research stuff for you. Actually, yesterday, I meant to tell you this yesterday. I know you're camera shopping now,
Right.
and I was like, oh, you should ask AI. And then I after I hung up, I was like, I should tell her to have it do the research for her and do a comparison chart. I did this for my son's Christmas gift, my eldest Christmas gift. He wanted another 3D printer, which of course he had to tell us this 2-3 days before Christmas.
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
And they had teenage boys.
Yes.
And so I was like, well, I can't really get it on Amazon at this point, right? So we went to I was like, well, what does Micro Center have? So I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, there's so many options. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna use AI. Right. So I just basically said, turn on research and agent. I was like, put in the fields that he cared about. He wanted this, he wanted a bigger kind of print plate and all that. And I was like, given all of this, give it this, what's the best option? And this is my budget, and I want you to produce a, Excel spreadsheet of kind of the options, and sort them by this rating and things like that. And it went out and did it in about 30 minutes. It took it did all this analysis, and I was able to basically give him a link to a Google sheet, like, here,
Right.
which one do you want?
Right. That's fantastic, right? Like that's like my own consumer reports.
Yeah, exactly.
But with exactly what I'm looking for, right? Yeah.
And I think that's really the exciting thing about AI. Everyone talks about the job apocalypse and things like that, and there is merit, there is concern about that. But if you think about what Uber did, Uber basically gave you not just a ride, but you kind of had a personal chauffeur, right? You look at Instacart, it gives you a personal shopper, right? These are all things that were really relegated to the highest, earners in society, right? Or the wealthiest in society. Now it's accessible to a lot more people. And I think AI can do that, right? You have your own personal researcher, right? Your own personal things like that. I think that's an interesting concept. Now, tying that back into, concerns about bias and things like that. I mean, if I ask OpenAI, like, what's the best LLM for me to use for a particular project, I doubt very much it'll suggest anything other than, right?
Right.
But I think as long as you use that research data, the report that it gave, and have that in mind, that it's not going to be totally objective. And I don't think humans are totally objective either, if we're being honest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we've covered a lot of good stuff.
We've covered a lot. We bounce around. That's ADD in action, I suppose. But yeah, no, I think it's good. I'm happy that we can stream now on Substack.
Yeah.
And I'm excited. Be sure to like, share, follow, subscribe, all that stuff. And I will also make sure, Candace, that you have the raw video file that you can post to your Substack for this. I know, fancy, right?
Right.
And then maybe
they make it easy.
They do, really, yeah. And I can also see what I can do in regards to automating that process, because I'm telling you, man, this vibe coding thing, there are flaws with it. It's not perfect. It's not replacing things. But if you look at what you and I've built since like November, December, what I've been able to still do, even with a concussion, right? I mean, it's impressive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You haven't, even when that happened,
right?
You didn't have to slow down. Well, you did have to slow down.
I didn't have to slow down, but I had to.
Automated like crazy, and you really got the whole process down pretty quick.
Right.
It moves pretty quickly now. So
it does, yeah.
That's important. right? It really saved us.
Cool. So, any final call to action?
Check out Women in Quantum.
Yes, absolutely. Go to whatever you're listening to, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever. Rate it, 5 stars if you like it, and tell your friends about it. And if you want to be a guest on it, you're not that hard to find, Candace.
No, I got a great name. Gil Hooley. I mean, come on. You
Right.
can't make it up. There's so many letters and they're all doubled. So you can find me LinkedIn, Substack, your Facebook. You're not going to find me on X. I'm not that fancy. I mean, I've had an account, but I just can't deal with it. So, but otherwise I'm pretty easy to find for sure.
And you can always go to impactquantum.com.
Totally fair.
You can find you there too. All right. So with that, I don't have a new outro graphic. Maybe I can have AI do that. All right. So with that in mind, I'm going to play the old outro graphic and welcome everyone to, our live streams on Substack.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Bye. Thanks, Candace.
It's great. Be good.